In our last video, we learned that we can use feedback control to control the position of DC motors. We learned that feedback control is a type of control that requires a sensor to read the position of the motor and feed back that information to calculate the error between the desired position and the actual position. That error is then converted into a voltage sent to the motor using an equation that we call our controller. In the last videos, we focused on one specific type of feedback control called on-off control. In on-off control, we calculate the error in the position of the motor, and then we decide to either turn the motor on in the forward direction, on in the reverse direction, or off completely based upon the value of the error. When we tried this in class in the lab that we will be continuing next time, we saw that on-off control has some problems in its performance. We learned about these problems in performance by looking at a motor response curve. The motor response curve shows how the motor position changes over time relative to the target position, shown here as a red line. Last time, we identified three characteristics of this response curve that we care about when we are creating our controller. The first thing that we care about is the rise time. The rise time, as shown here, is the amount of time it takes for the motor response to reach the target position. Sometimes we'll specify the rise time as a percentage of the target position. For example, we might say the 95% rise time, and that would mean the time it takes for the motor to reach 95% of the target position. The second performance characteristic that we saw last time is up here. This is called the overshoot. The overshoot is the amount that the motor response goes past the target position. And finally, the third characteristic that we looked at was the steady state error. The steady state error is the amount that the motor response is different from the target position after the motor response has stopped changing. That is, after the motor has come to a stop. We learned last time that with on-off control, it's very difficult to improve all three of these characteristics at the same time. In fact, it's even difficult to improve any one of them without making the other ones worse. For example, if we speed up the response in order to make the rise time faster, that will result in worse overshoot. Similarly, if we decrease the threshold around which we will turn off the motor, that would improve our steady state error, but it will make the overshoot worse also. With on-off control, the only way to make the overshoot become less is either to slow down the motors so that the rise time becomes worse, or to increase the threshold around which we turn off the motor. And in that case, the steady state error would become worse. Today, we're going to be looking at how we can improve these motor response characteristics by using a different kind of feedback control. The type of feedback control that we will use to try and improve all three of those characteristics is called PID control. And today's videos will be all about what PID control is and how we use it to improve the motor response characteristic.